We talk about a morning routine. There's this expectation of extreme productivity.
Yeah.
You wake up, you drink a green juice, you check your emails, just conquer the day.
Right. It's all about doing.
Exactly. It's all doing.
Right.
But today we are taking a deep dive into a document that completely flips that script. It's this source document titled The Silent Sunrise Observation Exercise. And it isn't just some casual meditation guide you might find in a lifestyle magazine.
Oh, no, definitely not.
Right. It is a highly structured, step by step facilitator's manual.
Yeah, it acts as a comprehensive blueprint for the people leading this specific group exercise. It's designed to fundamentally rewire how we start our day, shifting us away from our default state of mourning overstimulation.
So, our mission today is to unpack the core principle of this entire manual, which is this beautifully simple, but honestly incredibly demanding instruction, which is observe before you interpret. Okay, let's unpack this. Because right out of the gate, this manual identifies a massive problem with how almost all of us live our lives.
Yeah, it really highlights how the vast majority of people wake up and instantly enter a state of consumption.
Instantly.
Right. We go from the unconscious vulnerability of sleep directly into high alert data processing. I mean, phones, notifications, stress, planning, comparison, emotional noise.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's an immediate cognitive overload.
Reading that list in the manual actually hit me hard.
Yeah.
I mean, waking up and immediately checking your phone is like waking up and stepping directly onto a screaming Wall Street trading floor.
That is exactly what it feels like.
Right. You're instantly hit with demands, crises, other people's emergencies, the relentless news cycle. You are basically making micro trades with your attention before you've even had a glass of water.
Exactly.
But the antidote this exercise proposes is pretty radical.
Mm.
And honestly, finding the physical space to do it seems like a huge luxury.
How so?
Well, the manual asks for 30 to 45 minutes in a location with natural horizon visibility. So, like an open field, a riverside, a beach, or a hilltop. In our fast paced, urbanized world, isn't finding a pristine hilltop for almost an hour on a Tuesday morning
Mhm.
a massive luxury, like practically impossible for most of us?
Well, what's fascinating here is the underlying purpose of the setting. The manual is actually quite flexible precisely because the physical location is just a means to an end.
Okay.
Yeah, a garden, a local park, or even just a quiet apartment terrace works perfectly, provided it meets a few key criteria. It needs to be quiet, safe, and minimally distracting.
So it's not about the view.
Exactly. The location isn't about achieving some picturesque Instagram worthy aesthetic to show off your mindfulness. It's about creating a tangible physical boundary to interrupt that neurological pattern of immediate mental consumption.
And that physical boundary is reinforced by the incredibly minimal materials required.
Yeah, totally.
The facilitators told participants only need a yoga mat or ground sheet, a journal, a pen, some water, and maybe a light shawl. But the absolute strictest rule in the entire document, which is actually printed in bold for the facilitator to enforce, is no phones allowed.
None. Not even on airplane mode.
Just physically gone.
Yeah, removing the device entirely addresses a psychological phenomenon called the anticipatory dopamine loop.
The anticipatory dopamine loop.
Right. When your phone is in your pocket, even if it's turned off, your brain is still dedicating background processing power to it.
Wow. Right.
Yeah. Your nervous system remains primed for consumption, sort of subconsciously waiting for the next hit of data or the next artificial crisis. By leaving the phone inside or in the car, you allow the nervous system to actually stand down.
That makes a lot of sense.
You shift the brain's posture from hunting for information to simply receiving an experience.
So once the phones are gone and the participants are gathered, the manual doesn't just throw them right into silent observation. It dedicates a significant amount of time to biologically tricking the nervous system into safety.
Right.
The facilitator leads the group through a very intentional physical transition, starting with the arrival. Step one is a 5-minute arrival where participants are instructed to walk silently to the observation space.
Right. Yeah, no eye contact, no conversations.
They are told to walk slowly, become aware of the physical sensation of their footsteps, and just notice the ambient morning sounds.
And if you think about the neurology of that slow, silent walk, the facilitator is actively pulling the participants out of the brain's default mode network.
Okay, what is that?
That's the network responsible for rumination, planning the future, and dwelling on the past. It's essentially the mental time travel network.
Ah, I see.
So, by forcing attention onto the physical pressure of a foot hitting the dirt or the specific pitch of a bird calling, The brain actually has to switch over to its sensory processing networks.
So it pulls you out of your head.
Exactly. It literally grounds you in present moment data rather than future oriented anxiety.
And that grounding becomes literal in the next phase, which is step 2, taking 3 to 5 minutes.
Mm.
Participants sit comfortably facing the sunrise. The facilitator guides them to drop their shoulders, unclench the jaw, keep the spine relaxed, and place their palms softly
Yeah.
facing down on their knees. That specific palm placement feels intentional, not just ceremonial.
Oh, it absolutely is. It relies heavily on proprioceptive feedback.
Proprioceptive feedback.
Yeah, the way our body communicates its position to our brain. When your palms are resting securely downwards on your legs, it signals physical stability. And unclenching the jaw is another massive biological cue.
Because we carry so much tension there.
Exactly, we hold a tremendous amount of stress in the master muscle. Releasing that tension sends a direct signal to the brainstem that there is no imminent physical threat.
Wow. And then the manual provides this fascinating opening guidance script for the facilitator.
This part is so crucial.
Yeah, they're instructed to say, you are not here to perform spirituality. You are not here to force peace. You are simply here to notice. I was so struck by that phrasing.
It's really powerful.
Think about how often we try to meditate or relax,
Mm.
and we put on this invisible costume of a good meditator.
Oh, totally.
We sit there with perfect posture, intensely thinking, am I peaceful yet? I should be more peaceful. Look at me. I'm doing spirituality.
Yeah, we turn peace into a task.
Exactly. This instruction completely gives you permission to take that costume off.
Right, because it dismantles a phenomenon known as relaxation-induced anxiety. If a facilitator starts giving a heavy motivational speech about finding inner peace, they are inadvertently giving the participants a new goal.
They're creating a performance metric.
Exactly. The participant's brain says, okay, my task is to achieve calm. Am I calm? No, my heart is racing. I am failing at being calm.
And that probably just makes them more anxious.
Exactly. That spikes cortisol. But by telling them you do not need to become calm, simply notice what is already happening inside you, you remove the performance metric entirely.
That's brilliant.
When you stop forcing the brain to achieve a state of peace, the emotional reactivity drops almost instantly.
Taking that permission a step further. Step 3 is 5 minutes of breathing. The facilitator moves the group into a specific breathing rhythm before the actual silence begins.
Yeah.
The instruction is to inhale for 4 seconds and exhale for 6 seconds with absolutely no force, just focusing on the air entering, leaving, and the chest expanding and contracting.
And that asymmetrical ratio, exhaling longer than you inhale, is actually a direct hack for the vagus nerve.
Really? How so?
Well, when you inhale, your heart rate naturally speeds up slightly, but when you exhale, your diaphragm moves in a way that stimulates the vagus nerve, applying a physiological brake to the heart rate.
Oh, wow.
So by extending the exhale to 6 seconds, you are actively slowing down the cardiovascular system and signaling to the parasympathetic nervous system that the body is safe.
That physically anchors the participant.
Exactly, preparing them for what is actually the most challenging part of the exercise.
The silence itself. Step 4. Once the body is biologically grounded, the exercise demands 15 to 20 minutes of absolute silent observation of the sunrise.
Which is a long time.
A very long time. The facilitator steps back. The participants just watch the changing colors, the emerging light, the movement of the air. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Because the core challenge laid out in the manual is this concept of absolute observation. The facilitator is told to ensure there is no interpretation, no intellectualizing, no forcing a goal. Only observation.
Only observing.
Oh, wait, I struggle with this stance.
Most people do.
Right. From an evolutionary standpoint, as humans, we are wired to be meaning-making machines. Interpreting our environment is what kept our ancestors alive.
Absolutely.
If I see a rustling bush, I don't just observe the rustling leaves. I immediately interpret it as a potential predator.
Yeah.
My brain creates a narrative.
Yeah, the human brain is essentially a prediction engine. It craves certainty and narrative because those things equal survival.
Right. So observing the changing colors of the sky, or watching a bird fly past without naming the color, or identifying the species of bird, or weaving a story around the weather, it feels entirely unnatural.
It goes against our instinct.
It's like watching a complex, emotional movie in a foreign language without subtitles and forcing yourself to only look at the shifting shapes and colors on the screen instead of trying to figure out the plot.
That's a great analogy.
Your brain desperately claws for a narrative. If you've ever carried a really heavy box for a long time and you finally put it down, your arm muscles will literally involuntarily twitch and spasm because they are so used to carrying the weight.
Right.
It feels like the brain does the exact same thing here. We are so used to carrying this massive cognitive load of interpreting and managing the world that when you suddenly demand the brain put the weight down and just look, it spasms, it rebels.
And that neurological spasm is exactly what the designers of this manual are leveraging. The mind will absolutely rebel against this lack of interpretation because categorization feels like control.
Categorization feels like control.
Yeah, when you look at a bird and say, that is a cardinal, you've put it in a cognitive box. You've handled it intellectually.
You've solved it.
Exactly. You've conquered it with a label. To just let the bird be a sound and a flutter of movement without conquering it requires you to surrender your sense of control over the environment.
Which is terrifying for a lot of people.
It is, and this raises an important question. Why are we so deeply uncomfortable with simply witnessing something without categorizing it, managing it, or controlling its narrative?
Because if we aren't managing the external world, we're forced to sit with our internal world.
Spot on.
And the manual anticipates this discomfort brilliantly. It gives the facilitator these incredibly piercing, gentle reflection prompts to softly speak into the silence when they sense the group's minds are drifting or panicking.
Those prompts are so good.
The voice in the quiet just asks, what inside me is restless?
Or, can I observe without naming?
Or, what am I constantly rushing toward? I mean, imagine sitting in the cold morning air. You're watching the sky slowly turn from black to purple to orange. Your brain is twitching, fighting to label the clouds, to plan your commute, to name everything you see. And a voice just quietly asks, what changes naturally when I stop forcing? That is incredibly powerful.
It really utilizes the external environment as a mirror. The sunrise is a slow, unstoppable, unrushable physics event.
Right.
So, allowing your own emotions and thoughts to just pass through you without categorizing or controlling them, just like you are allowing the sunrise to happen without controlling it, builds profound emotional awareness.
That makes total sense.
You begin to realize that your thoughts are just like the shifting light in the sky. They emerge, they peak, they change, and they pass. You don't have to manage or intervene in every single one of them.
So after surviving those 15 to 20 minutes of silence, and really a survival for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Because 20 minutes of unmedicated, undigitized, undistracted silence is a terrifying prospect for the modern brain.
It is.
But the exercise does not just abruptly end. You don't just stand up, shake it off, and say, well, that was a nice sunrise, time to go scroll social media. The manual requires participants to capture the data of their own minds. It moves into the integration phase.
Right. The facilitator initiates step 5, which is a 5-minute internal awareness scan.
Okay, what does that entail?
With eyes closed, participants are asked to turn their observation inward. They check their emotional state, notice any residual body tension, observe their breathing pattern, and measure their mental speed.
Just measuring it.
Exactly. The key instruction here remains consistent. Notice whether your internal pace has shifted. Do not judge the experience. Simply notice.
And that unrelenting focus on noticing without judging is the bridge to the final step, which is 10 minutes of silent journaling. This is step 6.
Right.
The participants write privately, and the reflection questions provided in the manual dig straight to the core. The first few are grounding, like, what did I notice outside me? What did I notice inside me? What thoughts kept returning?
And then the questions shift from observation to revelation. Like question 4, what felt difficult about silence? Question 5, what became clearer?
Yeah.
And question 6 is the one that really challenges the participant. What am I avoiding in daily life? And it closes with what felt peaceful.
So what does this all mean? How do we jump from sitting on a yoga mat, looking at the sky for 20 minutes, to answering a question as heavy and potentially life-altering as, what am I avoiding in daily life?
It's a big jump.
It seems like a massive leap from observing a bird to confronting your deepest avoidances.
Well, the leap happens because the camouflage has been removed.
The camouflage.
Yeah. All that constant mental consumption we discussed at the very beginning, the notifications, the stress planning, the podcasts, the music, the constant noise. That is the camouflage we use to drown out our internal realities.
Wow, that hits hard.
Right. When you completely turn off the external noise and you biologically downregulate your nervous system to a state of safety, the things you've been avoiding finally have the quiet space to surface.
They just bubble up.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, The manual introduces the underlying philosophy of this entire practice, which it calls the ecological justice connection.
Yeah, that phrase initially threw me. It sounds like a heavy academic term.
It does.
But Manual makes it clear this isn't just a life hack for better corporate productivity.
Yeah,
It's not about optimizing your morning so you can crush your sales goals or be a more efficient worker bee.
far from it. The ecological justice connection is about recognizing our deep biological interdependence with the physical world and rewiring our expectation of how transformation occurs.
No, so
Well, we live in a society that expects immediate results. We want instant app updates, instant food, instant personal growth. But when you sit and intentionally watch a sunrise, you are witnessing a planetary event of massive scale.
right, literally the Earth rotating.
Exactly. The Earth is physically rotating to expose your location to a star. It happens entirely outside of your control, your schedule, or your input. It reminds participants of the most profound line in the entire text, which is nature does not rush, yet transformation happens.
Nature does not rush, yet transformation happens. That is the kind of insight that completely dismantles our modern hustle culture.
Totally.
We are constantly sold the idea that if we aren't rushing, if we aren't pushing, forcing, and sweating, we are stagnating. We equate speed with progress.
And the psychological impact the manual aims for is to break that exact equivalence.
By slowing us down.
Right. By reducing cognitive overload and observing the slow mechanics of the natural world, it teaches your brain a new operational speed. You learn that you can be highly aware, deeply present, and undergoing significant personal transformation without frantic, exhausting activity.
For you listening right now, we know the reality of your schedule. You might not have 45 minutes tomorrow morning to hike up a pristine hilltop or sit in a silent garden.
Yeah, that's not realistic for everyone.
But the core lesson of this facilitator's manual doesn't require a mountaintop. The mission is reducing cognitive overload by observing before you interpret. Tomorrow, before you reach for your phone to check the news or open your inbox to see what emergencies happened overnight, you can sit with your coffee for just 3 minutes.
Just 3 minutes.
Look at the wall, unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders, exhale for 6 seconds. Just receive the morning before you demand your brain start